It's so interesting that people are critical of the president's decisions, of our intelligence community's decisions, our generals' decisions.
They want details.
General Tata said, well, they can't have it. Everything can't be made public.
That is Ainsley Earhardt unironically defending US intelligence when it comes to the so-called intel that they're citing to justify Trump's escalation of war with Iran. Now, he did that by assassinating Iran's top military commander. And it's amazing because, as we all know, through the Russia investigation and now the impeachment investigation, Donald Trump has accused the intelligence community of being part of the so-called deep state over and over again. He doesn't trust the intelligence community. Even when they do provide evidence to indicate that he has obstructed justice and done all sorts of nefarious things. But nonetheless, let's hear what Fox and Friends had to say in its full context.
It's so interesting that people are critical of the president's decisions, of our intelligence community's decisions, our generals' decisions.
They want details.
General Tata said, well, they can't have it. Everything can't be made public. We heard Pompeo over the weekend saying everything that we have, the intelligence community has. He said, I ran the CIA at one point. We can't release everything. We can't release all of our intelligence information. We'll release as much as we can, but you just have to trust us, basically. And General Tata said it makes us more safe. He agreed with killing this general, this evil terrorist. He says it goes to show how ridiculous our divide is, that they support Soleimani over the president's decision. It counters everything that I learned as a soldier.
Just keep in mind, if you're going to be critical of the president for not hitting Iran after they took out our drone, and not hitting Iran after they rocketed the Saudi oil bases, and not going after Iran after they were trying to mining the Gulf, you can also be critical of the president when he does take action in that area.
Our embassy.
Yeah, they go, well, how could the president let our embassy get breached and not do anything? Well, he does something, and these same people are going, oh my God, how could the president do something?
Sure. That's
so.
Who is that person that had those two positions?
So I am going to go through a timeline of what happened with US-Iranian relations under the Trump administration, because the way that this is all being portrayed in the mainstream media, not in all cases, there has been some good reporting, certainly not on Fox, but the way that it's mostly being portrayed is Iran's the aggressor, Iran's the threat. Trump had to do it, he's protecting the American people. That's the narrative that they want the American people to believe in order to garner support for yet another disastrous, endless war. But if you look at the timeline under the Trump administration, our government has been the aggressor, and it's actually kind of astonishing how much restraint the Iranis have had in response to Trump. And I'm gonna prove that to you in just a second. But John, I wanted to get your commentary on that ridiculous exchange.
They're idiots, and that's what their job is, to be idiots.
No one supports Soleimani. Let's just be clear about that, right? So don't buy into the fake narrative that they're setting up, where if you criticize Trump's actions, that means you're a Soleimani fan. You have a Soleimani poster in your bedroom. You go to Soleimani rock concerts. No, everyone acknowledges he's a bad guy. The question is, what is the best strategic move in order to stabilize the region, to keep American troops abroad safe, to keep diplomatic employees abroad safe? What is the right way to go about it? So for instance, Jeffrey Epstein was a terrible person, right? But it is against the law to do an extrajudicial killing of Jeffrey Epstein, right? He has to have his day in court. You get it. There's due process, yada yada. So if I make that argument, it doesn't mean that I like Jeffrey Epstein. It means that you can't break the law and you can't just unilaterally decide to do things. There are consequences to that, namely deteriorating our justice system if that kind of action stands.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, and also if you're watching this and you're a Trump fan, you can't watch that and think, oh, they have been consistent in what they think about the trustworthiness of the intelligence apparatus in America. That they've been saying, oh, they're all lying to you. They're all part of this embedded multi-decade deep state. But now they say that they had something and I don't want any more information. I'm good. How could you possibly question them? First of all, there's not a deep state the way that they've been saying that there is. But if there was a deep state, if there was a long-standing across multiple administrations, continuing policy, it would be pushing us into war. That's the only thing consistent through all of these administrations, and that's what it's doing now. And to get you to bow your head to it, it's telling you that you're un-American if you don't support that drive to war.
Just like Iraq, just like what happened in the lead up to Iraq.
If there was a deep state, that's what it would be doing.
Yeah.
But no, the only thing the deep state does is occasionally pop up to spit in the eye of Donald Trump, and that's it.
Look, there is a deep state in the and people should be skeptical of the intelligence community, especially when it comes to their like US-backed coups, what just happened in Bolivia, for instance. The intelligence community tried to convince the United States that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. So should you be skeptical of the intelligence community? Absolutely. When it came to the Russia investigation, they had to show their work.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's be clear, the intelligence community didn't say we needed to go after Soleimani.
Exactly.
Pompeo said they said that.
That's
Trump
right.
said they said that, sort of.
And
then when you ask follow-up questions, they evaded away. It's not like we've released this 300-page Inspector General analysis of all the intelligence leading up to the bombing of Qasem Soleimani. That doesn't exist. It would be like if in the run up to Iraq, Colin Powell, he didn't have any of his charts or his satellite photos, just like, I heard something, it's bad, let's go in there. That's as casual as the lie has been. And Fox is lying to you, pretending that they find it to be convincing.
Right, and so I wanna go through the timeline of what's happened with Iran under the Trump administration. Because every time you hear this argument that Iran is the aggressor, understand that that is not the case. Now I'm gonna start this off by saying the obvious, which is in 2015, one of the best things that Obama was able to accomplish was the Iran nuclear deal, which made sure, and it wasn't just between the United States and Iran, it was between the United States, Iran, Russia, China, and European countries, right? And so there were ways to check in to make sure that Iran was no longer enriching its uranium. There were ways to prove that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. It was the best deal to prevent Iran from building a nuclear weapon. Donald Trump gets elected, and what does he do? So let's start with May 8th of 2018. Trump withdraws from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. That is the Iran nuclear deal, right? So once you do that, you're basically telling Iran, we've pulled out, that this deal doesn't exist anymore. If you want, you can go ahead and enrich your uranium, right? And that's essentially what they ended up doing, but there's more details, so let's go further. August 7th, 2018, Trump announces first round of sanctions against Iran. November 5th, 2018, Trump announces second round of sanctions against Iran. April 8th, 2019, Trump administration designates Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a foreign terrorist organization, something that's unprecedented and does what? Further devolves or further deteriorates the relationship between the United States and Iran and makes it incredibly difficult to renegotiate a nuclear deal, which is what Trump claimed he wanted.
Yeah.
Let's go further. By the way, who's the aggressor so far? May 5th, 2019, John Bolton announced the US was sending an aircraft carrier strike group and Air Force bombers to the Middle East against Iran. May 8th of 2019, Iran announces it is preparing to increase enriched uranium production. Trump implements sanctions against Iran's steel and mining sectors, okay? So look, at this point, what's amazing, Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal on May 8th of 2019. It wasn't until a year later that Iran was like, okay, I mean, we've been trying to comply with this even though the United States pulled out. But at this point, I mean, these sanctions are crippling us. The other countries that were part of this deal have been coerced by the United States government to stop doing business with us. And so we're left with no choice. Let's go to May 14th of 2019, because remember, the United States is engaged in all sorts of nefarious actions abroad. Yemen's Houthi rebels allegedly attack major oil pipeline in Saudi Arabia. US blamed Iran for the attack, but Tehran denies involvement. We talked about this story. The US government has still failed to provide any evidence to show that Iran was behind that oil tanker attack, right? And as we know, the United States is assisting Saudi Arabia in the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, which is leading to a genocide of the Yemeni people. Let's give you more. June 13th of 2019, US accuses Iran of attacking Japanese and Norwegian oil tankers while Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited Iran. Iran denied involvement. Again, there's been no proof of what the US has accused Iran of. June 17th of 2019, Pentagon deploys 1,000 additional troops to the Middle East. Iran said it was 10 days from surpassing the limit set by the nuclear deal that Trump pulled out of on its stockpile of low enriched uranium. Again, I mean, I know this is super detailed. And by the way, there's a bunch of other stuff, like little sanctions here and there that I haven't even included in the timeline. But where is the aggression coming from, guys? Like, let's take responsibility for what our government is doing. There's only so many times you could punch someone in the face before expecting them to punch back. June 20th of 2019, US drone shot down by Iran. Iran said that the drone was flying in Iranian airspace while the US claimed it was flying over international waters. June 21st of 2019, Trump calls off an airstrike against Iran. Okay, so he had called for an airstrike, and then 10 minutes before it was supposed to happen, he called it off. June 22nd of 2019, Iran responds to US threats by ordering the execution of a US military contractor who was convicted of spying for the CIA. By the way, no one in the US press talks about that story. June 29th of 2019, US deploys F-22 stealth fighters to defend American forces and interests. And the list goes on and on. On December 27th, a rocket attack on an Iraqi military base in Kirkuk killed a US contractor and wounded several US service members and Iraqi personnel. The US-led coalition against ISIL did not specify who might be responsible, but US officials later blamed Kataib Hezbollah, an Iran-backed militia, for the attack. 2 days later, on December 29th, the US military carried out defensive strikes on sites in Iraq and Syria belonging to Kataib Hezbollah that Washington said were in retaliation for the killing of a US contractor. Iraqi security and militia sources said at least 25 fighters were killed and 55 others wounded. Following that attack, that was when protesters stormed the US embassy in Iraq. And the way the media reports it makes it seem like the story or the timeline starts right there. Oh, they attacked our US embassy. Yeah, but why? Why? People don't just randomly attack embassies. Okay, so we need to think about how our actions lead to these types of repercussions. It's about strategy, okay? It's not saying or making excuses for the bad actors abroad. It's about thinking about the best way to de-escalate the situation, and Trump has consistently done the opposite, mostly because he can't handle Obama's legacy and he wants to destroy it in any way he can. He thought he could negotiate a better nuclear deal. If this is the way he goes about negotiating deals, he's a terrible deal maker. But we already knew that by the 6 bankruptcies that he went through.
Yeah, and as you go through the timeline, I just think about, like, if you were trying to have a war between our countries, this is kind of how you would do it. You'd bring in John Bolton along the way, a guy who has no qualifications outside of pushing for literally every war someone can imagine. And also right-wing media has been pushing for it too. If you recall, when they shot down that drone, Fox and Friends talked about it like they'd murdered R2-D2. Like it was this like this iconic person in American history that they dared to shoot down instead of, like a drone. It's a valuable piece of military equipment, but that's it, nobody was killed. But they have been trying to push for this from the very beginning. We were lucky that we didn't have this same sort of situation 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, Trump calling off that airstrike was a big deal, right? But at that point, Iran knew.
I hate every reference to that because he ordered the airstrike. I don't give a damn that he called it off.
Exactly.
He ordered it.
That was the point I was about to make. The fact that he ordered it in the first place led to an escalation of tensions between the United States and Iran. So calling it off was important, and I'm glad he did, right? Because the situation today would have been even worse than it already is. But my point is, he doesn't think about his actions before he actually carries them out.
Yeah.
And what he has done has not led to the possibility of a better nuclear deal with Iran. It's done the exact opposite. All right, and that's why we talk about strategy. That's the reason why we're talking about strategy. That's the important part of the story, not differentiating between good guys and bad guys. Because remember, Donald Trump went on an international tour touting his love affair with Kim Jong-un, who has his own people in gulags right now. He murders his own people on a regular basis.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you don't even have to go that far. He loves MBS.
Exactly. A man who killed a US resident, ordered the killing of a US resident and a Washington Post reporter. Donald Trump tried to help MBS cover up for that.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.